Cool. Hey, y'all. It's Thursday. What day is it? The 18th of May, 2023. Hey, everybody. It's good to see you. This is Plutus PBL live coding. We meet every Wednesday and Thursday at 14:30 UTC because together we're working through the Plutus PBL course. That course is live. Oops, I got sips on my mind. Whoops, let's go to Plutus PBL. The course is live at plutuspbl.io. Anybody can get started anytime. It's free. And you can see a calendar of events right here, both upcoming live coding sessions and an archive of prior sessions. So if you ever want to just go through previous meetings and see if there's anything good there, these are available. One of the things on our roadmap is to make the descriptions of some of these sessions a little bit more helpful. I know that the way this is organized right now might not help everybody find precisely what they need to find. So like everything, that's a work in progress, but you can always get started right here. The way live coding works is we start from questions. So any questions that people have had as they're working through the course, whether you're just getting started or you've been working hard for a couple months at this point, we welcome whatever kinds of questions you have. After we have a chance to go through some of those at the surface level, we define a couple of potential breakout rooms. We do a quick vote for which concept will stay here in the main room. And then we just start hacking and we see what we can figure out together. So that's our agenda for today. I'll start by just giving everybody a chance to drop some thoughts in here if you've got them. Or if for any reason you don't have access to the Miro board, just feel free to unmute if you got a question or just want to say hey and how you're doing. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Newman?
Sorry I'm late. I am stoked to be here for a bit, but I do have to leave early. And I felt like that was important. But I do have one question, and I'll put it into the thing while others are putting their stuff in. I locked my token for I think it's 103 maybe, but I actually didn't complete a step. I didn't change my lucky number, which I need the token back for. But I figured I'll just continue to work, and then at some point I'll get the token back, and then I'll circle back to get my lucky number changed.
Let's do it. So yeah, you've got a commitment right here to 103. And
oh yeah, there I
am. Yeah, I've got I think there's like one or two of these that are ready to be dispersed. So let's do it.
Actually, you're gonna send it back.
Yeah. So you can use it again. Hold on, but I gotta switch browser windows here.
Harsha said that you Harsha's here, right? He said that you hold on to it and never give it back, and then like when you do you tease people with it and stuff.
Yeah. You know, there are some inefficiencies to this currently and hopefully just temporarily centralized system, right? And so one of the kind of principles of this course right now, feel free to disagree with this because you might be right, but one of the things we're trying to do is to create initially inefficient systems or temporarily centralized systems, because if we understand what's inefficient or where a point of centralization is in a first iteration of a system, that gives us all something that we can improve on together. All right, so this is not
I do believe in that philosophy, to be honest. I think it's worthwhile, especially in a decentralized group, because then we all sort of can see and do the problem solving. Yeah. I see Dan's got his hand up. And I wonder if we should ask Claudio to mute. I think he's just picking up some background noise.
Oh, let me see.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Dan, what's up?
That's what I was going to say. Somebody's not muted and there's a load of noise coming through, which is walking over the top of you occasionally.
Oh, wait, actually, this surfaces something, but we're going to do this anyway. This is great.
Oh, I'm glad that I asked. And now actually I do remember that we talked about this earlier. I just didn't pick it up.
Where you're seeing a new system kind of like live. This is something that's going online right now. And in previous iterations of this course, some folks have seen what we were then calling the gimbal, project, treasury, and escrow contracts. We're going to get deep into these contracts. But this is using them right here. Just what's new is not only do we have the ability to lock a token in escrow with some rewards from a treasury, but we also now have the ability to update datum as we go. Now, this is a commitment to module 103 with GitLab, which we know you've already done. And it's a limitation of the way the system is built right now that you are, first of all, able to commit for a second time to something that you've already got credit for.
Right.
Okay. But you know what? For now, I'm just going to distribute this so you have the token back. And you're going to have a double entry of this achievement right here.
Okay. Because I was like, well, I double committed. And I did that by accident, but it's also, it means that I'm doubly committed. But yeah, now I see that it just wrote it again. Okay, now I get it. Okay.
Your deep commitment is noted. Sorry, you were about to say something there.
Well, I was just gonna say that one feedback was that and it was that I can kind of get lost in the course, like exactly sort of seeing like where things were. It works out because yesterday I went back through and just like started back and just sort of, okay, this is what this is, and sort of updated my notes and things. But it is, just in a learning journey, like trying to figure out where you are and which parts, and then all of the terms and, the nixes and cargos and, bash command script folders, different, templates and GitHub labs, all those things are opaque to a new learner, but they become clear. The fog lifts. But I am just remarking, it's like at this point, things are foggy and clearing, which is what learning is.
You're making me think we need a glossary up here.
Hey, I don't, you can do what you want. A glossary is good.
We could do. Juan, what do you think?
Yeah, no, man, that's exactly what am I. I always have to spend time being where are the what are the accomplished I have already and what I need to do, because I just don't do it every day. But what I've been doing, not for this week, but it'll be for this week, is logging in at least once a day, and kind of reviewing everything so it sticks better. Yeah, that's my formula for that. But the glossary will be awesome because that will help, time consuming, looking for terms and stuff. Perfect.
Yep.
I just made a note to put out a call to action. Okay, so there's a few ways that this current PPBL team needs to level up right now. And I recognize that our just weekly communications are probably insufficient. Something like a newsletter or just a single blog post that allows people just to understand a snapshot of where we're at right now is one thing we definitely want to do. And as part of that, communicating current opportunities is another one. And so we make this claim, right? We want to support people to become contributors. And I hope it's starting to become clear that being a developer who's heads down writing code, that's always going to be a critical way to contribute, but it's not the only way, right? And so contributing back to this course, for example, if we could create a little team of students who maybe helped out building a glossary, that would be a thrilling outcome, right? So let's do that. It's on us to communicate those opportunities and look for improvements there and hold us to account on that over the next few weeks. Okay. But also let's start building out those opportunities. This is really where the fun starts. Dan, what do you think?
Okay. On the point of the glossary, it would be an idea, I think, if we had somewhere where people could put a list of the common terms that they are unfamiliar with or want more explanation of, and then everyone can contribute to it to build it, and then people, as they find stuff out, can fill it in basically, and that will the glossary will generate itself over a period of time. The other point I wanted to make was the question I put up: is it possible to have a go to where you were thing in the course? The reason I'm saying that is I took a break for a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and I've kind of jumped in and I thought, oh, I'm on the 200s, so I started them and then realized, hang on, this isn't working. What have I missed? And had to go back and work basically I started working back through the 100s and then decided, right, no, I'm going to start at the front of the 100s and go through until so it just would have been handy to have had a "you are at this point" button somewhere, just as stored as a cookie or something on the.
Okay, well, cookies and both of these things you just shared, these are related. Okay, so one thing that this course does not have yet, because by design we don't want to rush into this, is any sort of proprietary backend. Okay, everything we're providing so far is either on the pre-prod chain or in it's complicated because it's new and we're trying stuff with it, but at the end of the day, the whole course is being delivered by a React project. Okay, and this entire React project is available. Anybody can look at all of the source code, everything that's on the page. It's just in a repo on GitLab. Okay, now, in order to build the functionality that all of us expect of a learning management system or a content management system, at some point, we have to build a back end. But if we're thinking hard about what we want to do new, this is something we really need to think about together. Okay, because the moment you have a proprietary back end, you no longer have a fully headless app, right? You now have, or I should say serverless app. I conflate those terms sometimes and I shouldn't. But you no longer have a serverless app, right? You are relying on our servers to deliver proprietary information, okay? So something like a wiki for an emergent glossary, is that a functionality we would all agree is probably worth having? I think so. I'm willing to have a back end for that. That seems fair, right? Something like cookies and user accounts that track you as you use this application. Are we all okay with that? Maybe. I'm a little bit less comfortable with that, right? Than a
James,
simple wiki. Yep.
rather than a cookie, once you've got to the point of minting your token, could the token be used to save where you are? Not, it wouldn't do it automatically like a cookie could do, but you could have a save my place in the course button somewhere, which would generate a transaction on the testnet, and basically tell you where it was. And then when you got back, you could click another button and say, where am I? And it would go and look at your token and go, you are here.
I love it. Okay. And so for anybody who wanted that functionality, they would just have to remember to create that transaction every time they finished a session, which might be a big ask. But also, right, the expense of a system like that, we're a little bit shielded from it because we're working on pre-prod right now. But if we put a system like that on mainnet, would people be happy about it? Maybe not, right? And this in turn leads us to, hey, what are some reasons why we might get excited about Hydra, for example? Because if we have a Hydra head running efficiently transactions like that, then there's no loss, right? And so Hydra is often misunderstood because people just summarize it to like that one-liner. Oh, you're going to be able to do this many transactions per second on Cardano, it's just misleading and kind of buries some of the real opportunities here. One of the ways to understand Hydra is that it's going to be something in between using the expensive mainnet public ledger that everybody has access to and a proprietary backend. We're going to be able to run a Hydra head that has all the functionality we're talking about in terms of smart contract validation, minting, datum, all of these things, but without the expense of pushing all of those microtransactions to mainnet. And once we have that, this would be a really cool thing for us to try to build together. What if we tried to use a Hydra head that just stored student progress? Wow, now that's kind of a compelling use case right there. Okay, so keep that in mind and let's get there. And I mentioned earlier, right? One of the things we want to show off are inefficiencies. Why do we want to show off inefficiencies? Because often, if you understand those, you're going to have something clear and tangible to get excited about for building on a layer 2 solution, right? Or another scaling tool. That's thrilling. Okay, keep that one in mind. Let's try to build with Hydra a student progress tracker. That would be really cool. Martin, what do you think?
But isn't your contributor token already like a cookie? Super cookie.
Ooh, what do people think?
Forever.
I could argue both sides.
That was my question. I was really confused by the turn of this conversation because I thought, whatever you'd achieved so far kind of told you where you needed to start again. So but maybe I'm naive about this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it could use your wallet token, contributor token to set your starting point when you connect your wallet.
You could. That's exactly right. You could say, oh, well, this token, by the way, cookies are tokens, right? Like of a different sort. The word token has existed in development since long before blockchain, right? And now we've just got tokens in our wallet that can actually be used in a very similar way. So yeah, that's actually a feature that would be really fun to build, right? We can make it clearer to a student once they connect their wallet where they are in the course. Erez pointed out earlier in the Discord chat that he noticed that the wallet, when we connect a wallet in one part of the site, it doesn't always what's the word I'm looking for? Persist to other pages on the site. Okay, so building that in, that's a great idea, but it'd be really cool. Yeah. Okay, you connect your wallet and maybe you're automatically rerouted to the next module that you need to be working on. There's also a placeholder right here. I clicked on the student link at the top. There's not much here yet, but if you connect a wallet on this page, you'll start to see a little bit of information. And this is provided as a starting point to help us learn about, first of all, grabbing information from the chain about you and your progress. And two, this uses what's called the use context hook from React, which is what we would want to use to solve that problem errors that you pointed out earlier, right? That we want to really persist wallet state throughout the site. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really glad that this came up in the conversation. I was trying to jump back into, hold on one sec. Elsa, please stop. Okay, I was trying to jump back into where I had left off, and it was really hard for me to get back to that point. Like even just trying to figure out on the website what to press to get me directly to where I left off. That would be nice to have a easier path to getting back into the actual course, because I found that I had to go through, get started, and then go through several like click next until I finally got back to where I was.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I'm going to reiterate this over and over again for the next several months. The convenience we expect from our lives as Web 2 users is hard to recreate if we're trying to maybe avoid some failure points. Okay. Now, is it a fair trade-off, right? I think this is a good example. For the convenience that you are talking about, should we implement some Web 2 tools to help us have that? Probably. I think that's fair, right? But we didn't want to start by providing that, because this is such a core point of what we're trying to achieve in this project-based learning experience, is kind of saying, right, all of us have been sleepwalking for the last 15 years, right? And we've been sleepwalking because things have been made incredibly convenient in ways that we don't fully understand. And everything about us, right, from you know, you can learn about a person just by how their mouse moves while they're visiting a website, right? And the list goes on of how much data exists on the Web 2 internet about you without you even knowing. And the reason it exists is all of us prioritize convenience first. Okay. Now, should this course provide some of that convenience? Yes. But we don't want to provide it blindly without first exposing ourselves to it. This is right. This is the opportunity here. What do you think?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'd be happy to share the screen and to just go to the website. And what I was thinking was just to be able to get back to, like, easily jump into module like 101 or 102 or 103.
Yeah.
I personally think there should be some kind of button or something that just takes one directly there. Not in a way that someone could like cheat or skip ahead,
right. Okay.
but just to get back. Exactly. And I found it kind of hard to get back to where I had left off.
Excellent. Yeah, so from the home page, just adding a list of modules so you can jump right into those.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that.
That assumes you can remember which module you were doing, which you don't. Well, I certainly couldn't remember after a week of walking away from it.
I do have another challenge here. I'm looking for opening my, I call it C prompt. And I don't, and the node, I don't know, I don't remember where I know it's a node, but I need to have a record where what I mean, what commands do I have to put to start the node, the Cardano node, the Cabal node. So I know that I have the regular node, but also I have the Cabal. So I just looking for suggestions. What do you recommend to get organized here on that? Because it's a nightmare for me. I spend like 15 minutes or 10 minutes looking for that.
Excellent. Yeah. Like basically creating our own shortcuts for things like starting Cardano node. That's a great one. We could talk a little bit about scripts and keeping those. Yeah, because like I wouldn't want, for example, there's a specific multi-line command you have to write every time you want to start up your Cardano node. You don't want to write that over and over again. So this
Yeah.
would get us into a little bit of scripting in a way that I think is really high value. I'd be happy to take a look at that today.
James, there is a start node script.
We
Did I-
provided it already, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought so.
yeah. There's a start node script that
Yeah.
you just type startnode.sh and off it goes.
Right, but you might have to customize it a little bit based on where you're storing your config files. So we could take a quick look at
Yeah.
that. Okay, so we talked about this one, checking for reference datum. That's this is also exciting. Idea for later, perhaps. Yeah, these are connected. Yes, and then we saved this one from yesterday. All right, so we've got now we could start using this task tracker a little bit. This is, I would say this is kind of in the middle somewhere, but like as we start to have new ideas for things we might build, we're going to start to use this priority matrix right here. Okay, is it urgent? Or and how urgent is it and how difficult is it? We can just start dropping sticky notes on places like this. And this is going to help us come together to start kind of side projects that might be really interesting for the site. These ones right here, I'm turning this one green because we can follow up with this one and show a few different ways to look at the reference datum. One of which is the student page that I just put on the screen. Okay, so if you go to this link, student, and you connect a wallet with a contributor token in it, you'll actually see right here your reference datum, just kind of raw. Okay, but there's no doubt that this page could be more beautiful or more effective in communicating certain things. Perhaps we could even build, after you connect a wallet, a button that says, hey, it looks like your next module is this one. And you can click on that to move to that. That would be a really fun thing to implement together.
Can we not use Cardano CLI to check reference datum? Does there need to be a front end necessarily?
Oh, no, we can absolutely do that. And we can take a look at that today too. Yeah, so with this, I'm going to come back to this question. I'm going to maybe put this one in the urgent and easy part of the matrix here. But let's digging in here. I kind of see these might be related. We could just do a jam session on Cardano CLI today. We could look at a script for starting the node. We could look a little bit at multi-sig minting. And before we did that, actually, maybe we could look at contributor reference datum via Cardano CLI. that would be a pretty satisfying agenda, I think. But I think these other topics are valid as well. Let's do a quick vote just to see where people are at. One thing we can do is running Cabal REPL, getting the provided Plutus template up and running. We could look at, there's some excellent stuff coming up with the front end and the results of module 204. And then we've got a little command line session. Let's do a quick vote just to get a feel. And you'll be able to vote on the rectangles themselves. So there's 4 rectangles here, 1 for each breakout room. You get 1 vote. We'll leave it open for 2 minutes as usual. If for any reason you're not in the Miro right now, just drop number 1, 2, or 3 in the Zoom chat right here. And that'll help us decide what to do next. Okay. I noticed that that Miro voting gets a little bit buggy if you end it early. So I'm just gonna let that clock run out right there.
It'd be cool for them to have some kind of integration between like Zoom and Miro where we can just do it.
What?
It exists, but it's expensive. All right, so we got 3 votes plus 2 more. Okay, 5 votes for breakout room number 2. So we're going to stick to this one for now. I'm going to just quickly spin up 2 additional rooms just in case people want to jump out for these other topics. Running Cabal REPL and module 204. To module 204, there's going to be plenty of time on that as more and more people start to get there. Okay, but if anybody wants to work on that, there's going to be a space for that. Let's play around with Cardano Node. Now, what's nice is this is also going to give us a chance to review a couple of scripts. And maybe some people remember a couple of days ago, we talked about what's called your bash RC file. Some people were here for that. And I just want to put a note here. Let's use a shape, actually. I'm not going to put mine on the screen because I have a couple of like sensitive things like paths on my computer. But if you're running a Linux-based system, you might know that you have this .bash RC file, or maybe if you're on a Mac running Z shell, it's ZSHRC. And what these files allow you to do is to customize your terminal so you can save yourself time later. Okay, so for example, one of the things in my bash RC file on this computer is I have a line like this. It says alias UTXO equals, and then this string. Now, you might be aware already that if I type, see, there's that. That's better. Like if I type Cardano CLI query UTXO, because I have Cardano CLI involved, I get this help message right here. Okay. And it was really nice also yesterday watching Mix and Faizan talking, right? Because Mix was just hadn't really used Aiken yet. And what on the CLI, if it's a well-built command line tool, you can usually get a lot of help about how a tool works just by starting to type and seeing what you see. And you can read through. This is documentation right here that tells you how this command works. But the reason I'm showing you this is because maybe sometimes I don't want to type this whole command to see all of this stuff. And that's why in my bash RC, I've set up this alias right here. Oops, I don't know why that didn't work, right? Alias UTXO. And what does that mean? It means that on my computer, I don't have to type this whole line every time. I could just type UTXO to get the same thing. And that's because I've customized that file, right? This is one really nice thing. As you start to go a little deeper, you'll probably choose to customize your bash RC file. But we can also, by the way, I do have a node running right now on preprod, and I'm proud to share that it's the newest version of Cardano node and Cardano CLI. You can see we're at version 8.00. I was a little bit bewildered last week when I saw that we had skipped from version 1.35.7 to 8.0.0. But the reason for that is that it was about time for the node version to match the Cardano protocol version. And so the Cardano development or the IOHK development team decided just to kind of finally do this, right? And to make the Cardano node and Cardano CLI version match that we are on version 8 of the Cardano protocol. All right. And so I can also, by the way, I have a directory full of scripts already written here. And for example, I have one that looks like this. I have a file named 101 set and query tip, right? You could name a file whatever you want. And inside of that file, you can see that I'm setting my node socket path and I'm querying the tip of preprod, right? And so I don't need to write both of these lines every time. When I start to run my node, all I have to do is run this command and I can see, okay, my node is synced. This saves a lot of time. And I do the exact same thing for Cardano node. I have another command that's 100. And the reason I use these numbers is because I don't like memorizing file names. If I give something a file name, no matter how simple I think it is, I'm gonna forget what I called the file. And I might as well just not even do this, right? If I'm just confusing myself. So what I've chosen to do is I put a prefix number on some of my most used scripts. So as you can see, if I type dot for bash and then a number and then the tab key, it auto completes. All right. So those numbers are just a personal preference. They're a shortcut for me because it's easier for me to remember the number 100 or 101 than to remember some esoteric file name. Matter of choice. All right. So let's use another alias. I think I have an alias called PPBL, which will change my directory to this one. So I don't have to remember the whole path to my PPBL directory, right? But in my bash RC, I have it, so I can just type PPBL. And there, one of these directories is the Plutus template. Plutus template. And in here, there's a subdirectory called bash scripts. Okay. And these are provided with the course. Okay. This repo. If anybody doesn't have the link, you can find it in the course. And if anybody else just has that open and wants to drop it in the chat, you can share that with everybody. Okay. But there's a list of ready scripts right here. And one of them, oh yeah, we didn't provide start node. So why don't we do this? Let's add maybe a start node script to this repo, just so everybody has it. Okay. So how should we do this? Let's
You want me to share mine?
yeah, if you've already got it written, that's great. I just wanted to show people, this is the Plutus template repo that I was just looking at on my computer. I'll drop this in the chat. And then in the course, when you first learn how to start the node, we do provide the command. Okay. This is lesson 102.1. And right here, this is the command for starting a node, right? But one, I think we agree, you certainly don't want to type this every time you want to start a node, right? One thing you can do is you can just copy paste this into a text file, and you can copy and paste it every time you need to start your node. But even that gets kind of inefficient. So what's really nice is that we can build a quick little bash script for this. So what I'm going to do here is just push an update to this PPBL 2023 template.
I finally found my start node script if you wanted me to
Nice.
share it for a second.
We can just demonstrate how to build this real quick now that we're here, because I want to add this to the template anyway. So this is the folder where I've got this repo. As always, I want to run git pull first. I do this every time I jump into this folder just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I really recommend doing the same. Looks like I'm up to date. Okay. And then in the bash scripts directory, there's a few really helpful ones. Query tip is right here. Right. So this is similar to the one I was just showing you. This is just a little bit better because you can keep your variables private. So there's a variables example right here where you can set up, your node socket path. And if you wanted to, you could put an address and key here. I have a private copy of this file with these values for my machine. Okay. So what you can do after you pull this repo down, you can copy and rename this variables example file, and you can change the values so they match what you need on your machine. And that's exactly what I'm pulling in right here, right? We basically import this file. So now I've got those private variables. And what we want to do is create a new file. And I could do this either by right-clicking and saying new file. But for anybody who's just really invested in learning a little bit more of CLI, right, or terminal commands right now, let's do it this way. So I'm going to go into CD bash scripts, and the keyword touch will make a new file. So what should we call this one? Start node. Maybe I'll call it start pre-prod node .sh. And when I press enter, you're going to see this new file show up in my Explorer. There it is. And then from the course, I can pull this command we were just looking at. I'm just going to copy this. Oops. Into here.
But it's still, you have to customize the database location, the topology, right?
Exactly, exactly. And this is going to leave that to you. Okay, so this gives you a template that you can use. But it wouldn't make sense for me to add my paths right now, right? You can go through and change all of these. But then once you do it once and you know it works, all you're going to have to do is run this script from your bash scripts directory, or you can even move it and copy it elsewhere so you can use it there. Any questions about that? I can go back to the root of this project. I can add this file. Add start pre-prod node. And then I can push it up. So next time you pull down the Plutus template repository, this template script will be inside. All right, give it a try. If it doesn't work or if you need to troubleshoot, just reach out for help.
Right.
One of the really cool things about Bash or scripts, sorry, shell scripts like this is that they're dumb. Okay, there's really not a lot of logic inside of these. When you run a shell script, it just reads through it blindly like a checklist, and it just does each of these things. That's all. And there's really nothing more to it. Okay, now you can make interactive ones where you ask the user for things, and you'll start to see those as you move through the course. But I think it's really helpful to understand just how dumb these scripts are, right? They will just do exactly what you tell them to. All right, so what's next on the agenda for today? We got a quick thing and then a more interesting thing. So let's take a quick look at what contributor reference datum looks like via CLI. And then let's just see if we can start doing a little bit of multi-segmenting. I'm not sure how far we'll get into this today, but we can explore it a little bit. So over here, there's actually a script provided here called get address UTXO. And you can see this is a script that's fairly simple, right? Hopefully you're already familiar with this part, Cardano CLI query UTXO. We can specify a network, in this case, testnet magic 1. And you see this $1 right here. That stands for a command line argument. And what this means is after I type the dot and this file name to run this script, I can press space and I can add something else after it. And whatever I enter first, right, in position 1, is going to be passed as the address that I'm querying. So let's pass it a bad address first. Watch this. I can run the script, get address UTXO, right? And then I can try to query Dan as my address. Let's see if it works. Okay. And you see I get an error. It says unexpected end of input. Oh, Dan is not a valid address. Okay. That's exactly what we would expect to see right there. And the reason I'm showing you this is just so you can see, right? Whatever I type right here is just going to be passed to Cardano CLI query UTXO right here. Let's pass it a valid address this time. And in fact, let's use the reference address. And actually, to grab this address, I'll show you one more thing. In the front end template, I'm going to go to the very first module, module 100, right? In lesson 100.4, you minted, oh, I'm on the French branch right now, but that's okay, right? In the very first module, you minted a contributor token with this policy ID. And when you did, actually, two tokens were minted. One went to your wallet and another one went to a contract address. This is the design suggested in SIP 68. If you haven't read it yet, I recommend taking a look, right? And SIP 68 solves a really interesting problem about NFTs, right? Cardano NFTs, if you do them the old way, it's hard to ever change the metadata. That data is on chain permanently. What SIP 68 says is that, hey, listen, we can mint two tokens. We can send one to the NFT holder that feels just like what they expect. And then we could put another one at an address somewhere with datum in a UTXO with that token. And then we can change that datum over time. And what you're now going to have is a dynamic NFT. That's a really big innovation. And so that's what we did here. Two tokens were minted. One of them came to you. That's the PPBL 2023 token that you hold in your pre-prod wallet. But the other one went to an address. Well, what address did it go to? And here, I'll switch back to the main branch here. So we'll be back in English. Okay. So here we pull in the, where exactly is it? This is if you already have it. Here it is. Okay, there's this contributor pair minting component that's defined right here in module 100. So you can actually see the minting logic for this thing. And some people have really started to look at transactions. This is the minting transaction in Mesh for your PPBL contributor token. And you can see it's minting two assets, okay? And one of them is yours, the one that got sent to you. And the other one is the reference asset, okay? Now, where is this reference asset sent to? I can see its name right here, but where is it going? There we go, reference token recipient. That looks good. And there's this address specified, but where is that address? Okay, so maybe you've seen this before in some of our other sessions where we look at the front end, but let's find the contributor reference address. You can see if what I did is I highlighted this and I pressed Control F. You can see if I mouse over it, it's showing me this value right here. But just to show you where this is coming from, let's look for where that was originally imported. It looks like it was imported from Cardano Plutus contributor reference validator. Let's find that. Source Cardano Plutus contributor reference validator. And here, this is where, as a project variable, the address to which all of our reference datum is sent is right here. This is a contract address. It doesn't have to be. You can store datum at any arbitrary address, but the beauty of doing this with a contract address is we can set very specific rules for how datum can be changed. Okay, and you've started to see this. Okay, we have a validator that allows anybody who holds a contributor token to change their lucky number, but not their mastery datum. We want you to be able to change your lucky number, but we don't want you to like be able to forge, success in the course without any permission, right? So that's a kind of nifty thing. And obviously our lucky numbers of great consequence, probably not for most people, but it's just an example of how a student or a contributor can post any arbitrary data they want to in order to take part in a system, okay? And we're going to go deeper. Some people have started to get to the assignment where we talk a little bit more about what this reference datum should hold. And it's not going to be a lucky number in a simple list forever. We're going to change it together when we decide we're ready. But this is the address right here that I want to query. I hope that detour makes sense. And I just want to give people kind of familiarity with how this system works as we go. So let's do this. Same command, get address UTXO, but instead of using Dan, let's use this address. And let's see what we see. Holy moly, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to zoom out just so you can see it. That's good enough. All right, there's a lot here. Because yeah, there's been a token minted to this address for all 107 times a contributor token has been minted. Right? We got 107 records here on chain with lucky numbers. Most of them are still 5 because a lot of people haven't changed their lucky number yet. That's okay. And you can see there's an empty list if somebody doesn't yet have mastery data. Or you can see there's a list with some information in it, for example, in this one. All right, so here's somebody. We could decode the token name right here using a hex to string conversion, and it would show us what the name of this token is. But here's somebody who has a lucky number of 7 and mastery of modules 100 through 203. There it is. Questions so far? What do you think?
So can we not find the datum for like a random token that we find?
Okay, so you're saying if I know the policy ID for a token and the token name, how would I find the datum for that particular token? Excellent. Okay, that is, I'm not aware of a way for Cardano CLI to do that, which is maybe a good thing. Okay, but this is what indexers and other sorts of chain query tools can do. All right, so at Playground, Harsh, were you at Playground last week when Maestro presented? Right, so one of the things they've done, and Blockfrost does this, okay, you can look for a specific token and you can look for the UTXO with that token, right? We could do it with vanilla GraphQL as well, right? So the GraphQL, and we could write that query if you want to take a look at it. And that's actually what's happening under the hood of our front end, is we're using a GraphQL query. Basically, we say, okay, when the contributor connects their wallet, look at the name of the contributor token in that wallet, remove the numbers 222 from the beginning of the token name and replace it with a 100. And then look on chain for the UTXO with that asset in it. Policy ID 100 token name, right? And then there can only ever be exactly one token that's holding, or sorry, one UTXO that's holding an existing token. And once we have that UTXO, we have the datum in it. I'm really excited for us together to build a custom indexer that's only for looking at PPBL contributor datum, right? The way we're doing it right now is still, it's kind of inefficient to query the whole chain every time you just want to find out about PPBL students, okay? And if we really wanted to build a performant DApp, what we would do is use an indexer to just always be up to date. It would be watching at regular intervals on chain events. It would create a store of just the information that's relevant to us. And then that would provide for us a PPBL student API. Juan, do you feel like you're looking into the matrix right now? Is this looking more familiar than ever before?
Let me unmute. Yes, it's very familiar. I just need to still find out where I had that information in my text file.
Yeah.
And it starts, but it connects very well. Yeah, I have done actually the batch script for the C node when initially we did the testnet. But then, like everything else, you don't practice it. But yeah,
It's happening. That's really cool.
thank you.
Yeah.
though.
Anybody else have questions about what we're looking at here? So last thing, this same command right here, actually, I don't think it'll work this way. So I'm just going to write this from scratch this time, okay? So if I type Cardano CLI query UTXO testnet magic 1, and then the address like I want to with this address right here. If I do one more thing, so right, if I just pressed enter right now, I would see that list of UTXOs again. The other thing I can do is I can specify an out file, and I can just give it any name, right? Whatever. And I can call it, it can make it a JSON file. Nothing appears on the screen, but a file called whatever.json was just saved to my current directory. There it is. And then I can look at that file. For example, I could open it in VS Code, or I can just say cat and the name of that file, make it appear here. And this is a different way to view the datum in each of these UTXOs, right? So basically, if I don't put this in an out file, I get a nice summary of the UTXOs at this address. But if I put it in a file, I can see a little bit more information, and it's structured like standard JSON. Here's the transaction hash, the address it's currently stored at. Does it have a datum hash, or does it have inline datum, right? So here we go. This one has inline datum and a hash. Does it have a reference script? No, not in this case. And how much value is in here? Oh, with policy ID this, there's one of this token, and there's this much Lovelace. So kind of an interesting way to look at what's available here. And a lot of indexers are basically pulling exactly this information from a running node, and they're indexing it, right? They're saving it to somewhere where we can then slice and dice this stuff right here. Now, another thing that's possible, you see this datum hash, and if I included a reference script in a UTXO, it too would create a hash. One of the cool things that we're starting to see, this is, I know that Maestro is doing this, I have to look at where else it's available. But basically, you can search the blockchain for a particular hash. Hey, I know this datum is out there somewhere. I know the hash of it. So I can query for this datum hash, and then find the UTXO that has such datum, or same thing. I know the hash of some script that I'm looking for. I forget what my reference script was, right? But I can find it just by looking for one matching that hash on chain. All right. We're not gonna have time today to fully build both kinds of multi-sig minting transactions. But let's just take a look at what's available to us. Okay, so if I say Cardano CLI transaction build, or because I'm lazy and I set this up in my bash RC file, I just have TX on this computer, which does the same thing. Okay, that's a nice benefit. If I type Cardano CLI transaction build, I see all the help. Right? These are all the different things I could include in a transaction build command. It's a lot. If you blur your eyes and look at it, this is incredibly intimidating. But if you know what you're looking for, you can find some really nice details here. So I just want to point out a few things. First of all, in the build step, we can specify as many required signers as we want. And for example, if you are using a minting policy that's separate from the wallet, say, that you're minting from, you're always going to need to at least add the required signer for that minting key, right? And if you're working locally, you could just include a path that says file right here. This is the file path directly to your signing key. If you're working in a more public environment or collaborating with people, maybe you don't want to give them the path directly to your signing key. Probably not a great idea. So instead, you can use the pub key hash associated with that signing key and supply it this way. All right. So this is at the root of any multi-sig transaction, is specifying additional signers. And you could have as many as you want. Well, there's probably a limit, but it's as high as it needs to be, right? It's trivial to add 12 required signers to a transaction, for example. No problem at all. And if I say Cardano CLI transaction sign in a similar way, as you know, after you build a transaction, you have to provide the necessary signing key files. And right here, it says one or more. Yeah, there always has to be a minimum of one signature on a transaction. What's the upper limit? Somebody can figure that out if they want to, right? But it's whatever you need. Any questions about that? Okay, so that only handles how to add, kind of in a trivial case, all of the necessary signatures for a policy. And what I'm skipping over right now, let's put it on the screen for just a moment so we can see this. In the lesson here where we first mint we first mint tokens, right? That's 200. And you start minting with Cardano CLI. You saw this is as simple as a minting policy script can get. It just says, okay, this signature is required, right? But you can write a script file with many signatures in it. And if you do, you can specify that all of those signatures are required, or you can say M of N, right? You can say, okay, there's 5 signatures right here. And if any 3 of them are provided, you can mint this token. Additionally, with exactly the same syntax, okay, just a set of public key hashes, instead of using this to generate a policy ID, you could use it to build an address. And when people talk about multi-sig addresses, this is what they're talking about. You write a script with many key hashes in it. You build an address from that script, and if you send a UTXO to that address, it's going to be locked until everybody signs for it. And when we have time, this would be a great thing to demo. Okay, this would be, I think we could spend a full session on just this topic, building a multi-sig address and unlocking UTXOs from it. In fact, we did this last year during this course. So I think we got to do that again. And so just as a last thing just to look at today, and I recognize we're not demonstrating all of this right now, right? But just to give you an overview, I think this is a really good place to start. I want to name a problem. I could build a transaction and I could require some number of signatures. But if I then want to sign that transaction, how do I collect the signatures? It's one thing for me just to run the signing step on my computer if I already have all the signatures. But if I already have the signatures, what was the damn point of having a multi-sig if one person just holds all of them in the first place, right? I hope you can see that would just be, it's a waste, right? It's a fun thing to do, and I recommend everybody try this on their own, right? Build some multi-sig transactions where you hold all the keys. But in reality, the reason multi-sig exists is so that multiple people can sign off on transactions. So how do we do that? The way it works, and once again, let's demonstrate this live. This would be really fun to build a multi-sig address together and unlock it together. Okay, but what you're going to do is you're still going to build the transaction, and then you're going to send that transaction draft to everybody who needs to sign it. It's just that when they do sign it, they're not going to use Cardano CLI transaction sign. Instead, let's see, Cardano CLI transaction. What else is available here? We've used build, and we've used sign and submit, but check out this one, witness. Okay. This is a really interesting one. What does that do? Cardano CLI transaction witness. Look, it takes a TX body file, just like sign does. And it takes a signing key file, just like sign does. But what it's going to output is not a fully formed transaction. All it's going to output is your keys witness to a transaction that other people are witnessing as well. So let's think about the process here. Somebody has to initially build the transaction and specify who needs to sign it. Right? So anybody can start that process. They build it with the required signers, and they take the output file of that build and they send it off, right? And you can send this without consequence across the internet, right? It's just like a memoranda that needs to be signed, right? It's okay, but you can keep it secret for other reasons, right? You just don't want people to know about it, but keep in mind, after it's on chain, people are going to be able to see it anyway, right? So you can send this thing around the internet, and it can't be used for anything except for being signed by the people who need to sign it. After they sign, and I shouldn't be using the word sign, I should be using the word witness. They just need to witness it with their signature. Okay. And after they do witness it, now they can send the resulting output files back to whoever's responsible for collecting those. Maybe it was the original person who built the transaction, but it doesn't have to be, right? And then we use this one, assemble, okay? So instead of running one single sign step, we then say assemble. And what does this do? This takes a set of one or more witness files, which were the output of the witness step. And if you have all of, or the minimum number of required witnesses, now finally you can build a finalized transaction that can be submitted to chain. So we're familiar with the build, sign, and submit process. I hope you've noticed that we're repeating those words over and over again in the course, just so you can become familiar with them, right? But in addition to build, sign, and submit, there's build, witness, assemble, submit as an option for multi-sig. And that is awesome. That is a cool feature of how a UTXO-based blockchain works. Who's got questions? Erez, what do you think?
Yeah, hey, I think it's going to be a great idea to go through the multi-sig, and I'm excited to see that happen. I just wanted to hold on. Sorry. Sorry, my kids are fighting. Stop it.
I love that we're all doing this in our real lives. You know, this is it's what it's all about.
Hey, James, in the meantime, when you are when you build the transaction and send it to other people to witness it, is the only way to send it through the internet, like a message or whatever, or is there another way to send it just like through the CLI or something?
Oh, great. Okay, CLI doesn't provide a way to send it, right? But it's just, you know, if we where do I have, maybe wait, whoops. I'm trying to think. I think I've been trying to keep this computer pretty clean. But if you ever have looked at a built transaction, right? Just open it in a file explorer. It's not that much data, right? I think it's bytes, right? It's not even kilobytes, right? How much data it is. So it's really straightforward to send it. So whatever channels you want to. And this is, as you think about building applications to utilize this technology. And we were talking about ADAO's roundtable earlier, right? What they've provided is a communication channel. I think that they were early on, they were using Gun.js. I'm not sure what they're using, if they're still using that now, right? But you have to just provide a communication channel for people to send those back and forth. And if you build it in a specialized way, you can provide that service. Additionally, signing or witnessing does not have to happen on first of all, a computer that's even connected to the internet at all, right? And you certainly don't need a synced node to sign or witness a transaction. All you need is the draft of the transaction that you're signing and the key in question, okay? And so when we talk about air-gapped solutions, right, this concept that for any value above a certain amount, you should just never hold the keys for that value on a networked computer, right? That's how it works, right? You build a transaction on a networked computer. You can put it on any sort of device, secure device you want to. You move it to an offline computer, you plug it in, you sign it, and you bring it back to the networked computer, put it up on the network. Right? Is that a pain in the ass? Of course it is. Is it worth it for a certain amount of funds? Yes. Yes, please. Right. And so any stake pool operator that's, you know, for any operation, you're going to keep those keys separate. Aris, what do you think?
Yeah, hey, sorry. I'm here alone with my kids and they were starting to fight.
Superman, I
take
love
care of
it.
business. Doing my best. Struggling dad doing his best. But I wanted to say, just share the good news that I got the Cardano node and CLI to install correctly finally after several months. So super excited. I wish I had a bottle of whiskey to share with all you guys.
What a
And,
journey,
it's a good feeling.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's
But,
such relief.
yeah, totally. So I'm really excited to move forward with the course, and I got to bounce to another meeting, but thank you so much, and have a good day, everyone.
You too. Thanks. That's
Thanks.
great news. Cool. Yeah, we're at time. Anybody have last questions before we end for today?
Yeah, I just have a comment. You know, I just realized that, you know, you once mentioned that it is important to review other, you know, the other chapters or other modules that we have done. And that's precisely what we do need to do, review. So I'm going to go back to where I was in terms of yeah, even if I have to go back to 100s, but yeah, that's the way to learn. I just thinking, because I have spots, no clear spots, and I'm looking for someone to help me with the answer, but there is no one. It's me with the material. That. So that's why my thing.
Thanks for jumping into it. We're really trying to leave some Easter eggs for everybody that you'll kind of uncover as your own as you go along. So
You are Easter eggs. You're setting up a timeline.
you'll find them.
No, for sure. Yeah. Very good.
Thanks for this. Yeah, Harsha, sorry we didn't have time for the full demo today, but I see you ready to play. All right. Hey, see everybody next week, if not sooner. And yeah, thanks for hanging out today.